Kia ora and welcome to this episode of The Amateur Austenite. I'm Frances Duncan, author and the founder of the Jane Austen Society of Aotearoa New Zealand. My co-host is Emma.
Hello.
We have a secret co-host, and in the background, as always, is our canine co-host, Bingley. Today we are discussing the 2007 adaptation of Northanger Abbey, scripted by Andrew Davies, who is the Austen adapter. He did the 1995 BBC Pride and Prejudice, which started a huge thing, and he's done a whole bunch of ones since then. Most recently, Sanditon is very much his baby, which is why there is so much nudity.
There was some nudity in this Northanger Abbey, but didn't get to see it. More implied nudity.
Like we did last time, we've got good, bad, what they changed, what they kept, and a new one. What are the similarities to the previous adaptation? I feel like maybe we should start with the similarities.
Why not? There were quite a number of items in this adaptation that came from the 1987 adaptation, not from the book.
The starting scene with her reading outside, then she's interrupted by her siblings who go and see the Ellens.
She wasn't in the tree.
No, she was
under the tree.
But it was the reading and going, ah.
It did set the saucy tone too, because she was having a bit of a sexy dream.
She had a lot of sexy dreams. The fantasies were much sexier than the ones in the previous one. So this is another similarity. Fantasies and dreams. They did them better in this, that they weren't actually the actors till after she'd met the characters. And also everyone is wearing eyeliner in them.
Fantasy eyeliner.
Everyone's wearing fantasy eyeliner. I want to do a photo shoot of me in a dress like that with my hair all out fainting against a tree so much.
So a dress like that, we're talking white muslin, voluminous.
Mm-hmm. Sort of Grecian.
Deep V-neck. There were no fantasy scenes in the source material, and there were in the 1987 adaptation, and they worked pretty well, we thought. But in this, they're even better because they're worked into the script better and they're less jarring. She's generally asleep or clearly already daydreaming, so you know there's a fantasy coming.
Being Andrew Davies, it's going to be a little bit sexy. But I think it worked really well making them be kind of sex dreams, because that's kind of the implication that you get about reading these sort of books. Little Catherine's being seduced by books.
I think it added something. I mean, it's not in the source material, but we don't live in the 19th century. And she's 17, and I think that it's super reasonable. She's, I'm afraid, spoiler alert, going to get married quite soon. This is very much a coming-of-age movie, and she's learning about the world and learning that people are not what she thought, and that there's more to relationships than she was aware of.
So other things that they kind of copied from the earlier adaptation, that Mr. Tilney bumps into them at the ball rather than being introduced by Mr. King like he is in the novel, although he is also introduced by Mr. King.
So Mr. Tilney bumps into them in a way that is really rude.
He seems like he's really busy on his way to do something else, and he's a bit annoyed to stop and talk to them, but then he comes around and is charming and funny.
And then he goes off to get the Master of Ceremonies so he can be officially introduced, doing the right thing. And it seems that he's doing this because Catherine appeals to him. So that is a thing that the 1987 adaptation had that the book didn't, that Mr. Tilney is taken with Catherine from the start, which is not in the book.
No.
That's Catherine's point of view. She wishes that were true.
This one doesn't feel like it's as much from Catherine's point of view, partly potentially because there's the narrator.
Yes.
We see Mr. Thorpe talking to General Tilney. I like that they showed that in both adaptations, because in the book you have no idea that's going like that. Oh no, you do see them.
Yeah, you do.
But it's clearer in these what's happening.
Well, they have the dialogue, you know what they're talking about, which is how much money Miss Morland has.
What a cat.
Actually doesn't have.
They introduced Miss Tilney's boyfriend early on, like they did in the other one, except that then he sort of hurried off at the end. That was a bit unsatisfying. When they don't actually conclude it in the 1987 one, I think.
I can't remember.
Henry turns up on a white horse in the mist and kisses her in the garden, but we don't see Eleanor again. So we don't know what happens to her and her boyfriend. At least there's a conclusion in this one, but it's so hurried.
Well, boyfriend is totally not an Austen word.
No, but I don't use Austen words very often. And Austen wouldn't swear like I do.
Can we call him a lover?
Different meaning now.
Yes, I know.
Very different meaning now.
We'll get to that difference. But having the Earl's heir, as it turns out he is, in the book, he appears in like the last paragraph as, oh, and this is what happens to Eleanor. Yeah. All along she'd been in love and the general had been standing in the way. We see in both adaptations that she is unhappy because of this love that she's been denied by the general. Mm. So you kind of see her as more sad. And also, does it explain more why she's promoting her brother, Mr. Tilney, and Catherine's match so much?
Potentially. She's like, here's someone that cares for you. You should be with someone that cares for you.
You can have what I can't have.
They kind of mirror the scene of Isabella talking about the engagement in Catherine's bedroom, although Catherine is not asleep this time.
Could it be just an excuse to have the actresses in corsets?
That's a different scene you're thinking of. That's after the carriage ride, and they are literally like wet in their corsets, and that is very Andrew Davies' choice.
Quite a few kind of wet shirt scenes in this film.
Yeah, that Andrew Davies cannot let go of the wet shirt. Trying to relive the scene of his glory.
I think it's nice to see them in a private space together, but I'm not sure how accurate that is, whether you've allowed people into your bedrooms. Like, you might have a dressing room next to your bedroom, which is like your own little lounge, and you might see people in there.
I think for your best friend in all the world.
Although she and Isabella barely get to be friends in this.
They sped through that very quickly. It's because I think Isabella's a completely different character. More girls hanging out in bedrooms.
Necessary for a good movie. Again, they make the Abbey old and creepy like a castle, because why not? And again, they have the maid finding the papers that Catherine leaves out, because I always thought that was a bit weird in the book, that the maid doesn't go, why have you made a mess in your room? I have to clean this. They also do the Henry being angry about her thinking his father's a murderer and her not seeing him after, which I think works. They did it in both adaptations because it works better than him being nice and then her getting sent away. Like, it adds to the build of her getting kicked out.
Yes, you can see why they did it. It works cinematically. In the book, it's important that he knows she's uncomfortable and he is kind to her. But cinematically, it's better that she's suffering agonies of thinking that he's never going to forgive her.
They don't actually end at the same place because this one goes on a little bit longer, but they both have kissing in the garden. Although this one does the kissing much better.
Catherine backs him up against the trellis.
Bit of an unexpected
this is
enthusiasm.
Yeah.
It's quite a sexy movie. I noticed that Mrs. Allen had a trim that was a meander pattern on one of her dresses, and she had that in the other adaptation as well. It was in a different dress, but the same pattern.
Tell us about a meander pattern.
It's a classical thing. It's like a spiral, but it's square. It's a square.
Oh, like a Greek key?
Yes. That's a meander pattern.
Ah. I think they could have come from a common source. You could get that from a fashion plate.
All right, what would you like to move on to next? The good, the bad, the changed, or the kept?
Let's go bad.
Okay. What was bad in this adaptation? This is actually the shortest list. Felicity Jones, because she is not plain.
But we know that Catherine is almost pretty by the time of the action.
Have you seen Felicity Jones? Under no argument could you ever say that she's plain.
When you see the crowded ball scene, you can tell that there are many, many women to choose from. And Isabella, at least, is prettier.
Is she?
Oh, on a Kerry Mulligan versus Felicity Jones competition, who wins?
Because to me, I think it's partly also about the character thing, right? And the way she plays Catherine is so innocent and genuine that it shines forth as more attractive than Isabella, who's that little bit more calculated.
At least you can say that there is a lot of choice in Bath, and even Felicity Jones, who is adorable, has competition and plenty of it in Bath. She's not a diamond of the first water.
I didn't like that we saw the Thorpes before we met them, that they were kind of in the background looking at Catherine and stuff. It seemed weird because it was like, have they recognised her? But then if they did, why did they not talk to her?
I think it was supposed to make us see that they were not genuine, that they were calculating and plotting, that had they been genuine they would have approached her, but they weren't.
How did they figure out who she was, though? Also, what was John Thorpe doing there earlier? He's supposed to turn up with her brother. Plot hole?
Ooh, yeah, maybe.
Mrs. Allen says that she doesn't know who's going to introduce them to people because they have no acquaintance. And like, that's literally Mr. King's job, and then he does that for them. When Mr. Tilney goes and gets him.
And Mrs. Allen has been to Bath before, so she does know that.
I think they were trying to make it funny, but it just fell a little flat. I was actually disappointed with Captain Tilney and Isabella's flirting. Their flirting in the previous adaptation, oh my god. And their flirting in the book, so good. I wasn't really feeling it as much in this one. I was a little disappointed. Although you focus on Catherine's face while they're flirting, which is kind of what you do in the book. It's from her perspective listening to them. That was really good. But then it might have actually been why I didn't think the flirting was as good, because we didn't focus on it as much.
I think it's because Isabella was not so overt in this version. He was very sinister, Captain Tilney. He did do a lot of stalking around, staring at Isabella. There were things that were left out. So this was an hour and a half long, an hour and 32 minutes possibly. So you can't fit everything in. And some of your favourite bits are always going to be left out. Mrs. Allen is delightfully silly in the book and in the 1987 adaptation too, in fact. Her obsession with clothing, her superficiality was not that obvious. She just didn't get enough screen time.
I would argue that, no, we can trust Mr. Tilney because he understands muslin.
So they represented all of her clothing obsession with that one phrase. And they used it 3 or maybe 4 times. And I think it was a good choice for the sake of the film. But they left out all of the other clothing-related examples of how superficial Mrs. Allen was, which was a shame, but I do understand why. I didn't think General Tilney was that sinister. The camera angles and the music and the lighting, yes, but the actual actor?
He's a different kind of sinister. This is one of the big differences between the adaptations, that everything in the 1987 one is very overt, but everything in this one is much more dialed back. We're hinting at things rather than slapping you in the face with them. Do we want to talk about what's good then?
We sure do.
I thought it was really funny that her parents were like, oh, novels are quite harmless, but then you see them giving her sex dreams. The actress who plays Mrs. Allen was Fanny Price in the 1980s Mansfield Park. I thought that was a very interesting choice because they're very different characters.
20 odd years later. She struck me as quite a young Mrs. Allen.
Well, we never actually know how old the Allens are.
That's true, except he's old enough to have gout, but as we now know, you can get gout in your 20s.
He was eating a lot of red meat.
Well, probably eating steak and beer for breakfast. There was a vomity face there for the record.
Some people would be very happy about that. I'm just not one of them.
I'd be happy with the steak part.
On the gout, I liked that Mr. Allen had his foot bound and he had crutches. Like, you could actually tell that he was sick.
I agree. Didn't he shove the door to the carriage open with his crutch or something?
I think
he used the crutch to do something.
What did he have issue that he needed a crutch for?
His foot was sore from the gout.
No, I should know what gout does.
It's arthritis, pain in your joint.
Oh, right, okay. I thought that it was that if he's got a cold, I said crutches. But no, that makes way more sense.
So that's why they've gone to Bath, because that water you saw them drinking, that comes, yeah, so it comes out of a spring in the ground, which has got lots of minerals in it that's supposed to be good for your health. So they fish the water out, put it in a glass and sell it to you. And people go to Bath to drink the water every day or to immerse themselves in the water. So
this is like a big scam. Capitalist scams.
Yeah. Capitalist scams of the 18th and 19th
Bath
centuries.
is a capitalist scam.
It's a trendy health resort.
Everyone wants to go there. Does everyone want to go to Bath because it either says good things about you, that then you're able to go there, or...
Yeah, you'd have to have money.
Because Jane Austen writes about Bath, like in every novel she writes. What is it that is desirable about it?
Status.
And what about Bath indicates status?
Well, you've got to have money and leisure to get there. But also, Jane Austen hated Bath. She can show that all these people, this superficial niceness is hiding all this decay and nastiness.
Right.
She has a whole thing about it in Persuasion. The Elliot family, the street that they're literally living on, like you can smell sewers there, or it's sinking because of sewers or something like that. Something that people at the time would have recognised the importance of putting them there. It was still quite a rich area because they needed to, live in a very nice area, but it indicated certain things. I'm really going to have to look up that reference. Catherine looks young, innocent, and is so honestly appreciative of everything and is so transparent.
Good Christian girl.
Yep, an innocent country
Desirable,
girl.
good Christian girl.
Yep, she did a great job because she was innocent without being thick.
Yeah. I like when she and Mrs. Ellen go shopping, the parade to the carriage and then the piles of shopping being handed into the carriage. That was good. Mr. Tilney, I like that you can see that he's a comedian and he's doing it with Catherine, because I feel like maybe some people interpret the book like that and some people don't, but it works so well for this that she's in on the joke and he's actually really funny, less subtly funny. You can tell that he's making jokes about things. And the actor, his name is J.J. Field, and you might recognise him from Austenland.
Oh.
He played Mr. Nobley, the Mr. Darcy.
Yes, he did. I knew I recognised him from somewhere. And what year was that?
2013.
So 4 years after this.
And you recognise Carrie Mulligan as Isabella, and she was Kitty Bennett in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice.
Which must have been a reasonably early role for her, the Kitty role. Interesting. Mm-hmm. So I thought that the relationship between Catherine and Mr. Tilney was beautiful in this. He was fabulous. Just the right mixture of worldliness and intelligence and fun, and genuinely into Catherine right from the start, appreciating her open-heartedness and innocence without making fun of her, and that question of whether he was making fun of her, whether she was in on what he was saying, which is there in the book. You are not sure whether he actually values her intelligence or indeed how intelligent she is. But in this film, as you say, they're in it together. Just the looks that pass between them and the shared jokes, the chemistry between those two actors is really very, very good. And a lot of it is to do with Felicity Jones' ability to play both innocence and youth, lacking in experience but not in intelligence, and J.J. Field's ability to be both fun and insightful.
I liked when they met, the crush at the ball was very genuine. Previous one, they just sort of get through the crush quite quickly, but you have felt that real discomfort of trying to push through people.
And being a nobody.
Yeah. I liked the jokes about introductions because, we're not supposed to be talking to each other. Don't tell anybody that. Which is accurate. Not talked about in the book because obviously they were very introduced. Miss Tilney is an excellent wingwoman throughout this adaptation. She just subtly, trails behind so the other two get time together. And she's like, oh, so you don't want me to tell her how upset you were when we couldn't go for a walk with her then? And she's elegant, and you can tell she's that little bit more mature, older than Catherine.
Yeah, she's calm.
I liked the costuming. It was so subtle that you don't even need to comment on the costumes very much, whereas the previous adaptation, again, they were smacking you in the face with the costumes.
There was a lot of yellow.
Was there?
Yeah, yellow and beige. Both Isabella and Miss Tilney.
Well, they didn't keep Miss Tilney in white the whole time.
No.
Miss Tilney always wears white. I liked that after Isabella gets engaged and she goes to the ball with Catherine, she says, remember, I'm only here for your sake. But she's wearing a dress that her boobs are almost falling out of, so much so that we're like, oh my God, is that a nipple? Sure, you're just there for Catherine. I think it was that same ball where General Tilney goes up, says hello to Catherine, and then just takes her hand and basically hands her across to Henry.
Yeah.
Got lots to say about John Thorpe later, but I really liked that she's like, do you think I should not be trusting him? And Mr. Tilney's like, I'm maybe not the best person to ask. And she's like, oh, you like me? Oh. Catherine's room at Northanger has a giant cupboard which you could store several corpses in. Excellent. It's a shame she never opened it. She was going to.
She did open it.
Did she? I thought she was going to open it and didn't get to.
We need to watch it again.
Third time in 24 hours.
Just for the wardrobe scene.
Just for the
yes.
scene. But she could hide in that wardrobe. When Mr. Tilney turns up at Fullerton, Catherine's outside and sends her siblings inside to tell her mother. And she's talking to Mr. Tilney. Then one of her sisters comes outside and, obviously imitating her mother, puts her hands on her hips and's like, Kathy, you need to bring Mr. Tilney inside. And I thought that was great. That is so accurate.
Which is interesting because they can't have the bit about the younger brothers and sisters just expecting that every carriage might disgorge a brother or sister. That, well, they could have had the rushing into the vicarage saying, who saw her first. But it has that same flavour.
We do get to see them running up to see her when she comes home. But yeah, they're all so much younger. Catherine and James are the only grown-up ones.
Oh, the next ones look like they might be maybe 14.
Okay, I'm going to go with what they changed. They showed how creepy men could be. That came through really clearly in this adaptation. Men seeing Catherine when she turns up and being like, oh, she's right for plucking. Sliming up next to her at balls.
That was breathtaking. That older man just rubbing himself against her. Ugh.
One thing that they changed in this adaptation that I actually kind of liked, that John Thorpe is kind of a different character. He's almost attractive and he's kind of trying to seduce her. There were bits when I was like, ooh, John Thorpe, what? No, that is inappropriate.
In the book, you wonder why Catherine can't see through him. He is such a, what we would call a blowhard. By we, I mean a New Zealand woman born in the 1970s.
So just you then.
I don't think anyone younger than me would use the term blowhard. He's constantly talking himself up. He tells lies a lot.
But he comes across as a little awkward rather than bombastic.
Yeah, you think that the only reason that Catherine is taken in by this is because she has so little experience of people. Whereas in this adaptation, you can see more that he does seem to be caring for Catherine's interests.
Neither Thorpe sibling is as easy to see through.
No, so Isabella is utterly different. I think she's much more subtle and she's a much more sympathetic character. So she's clearly desperate for men's attention, but she, I think, is far less calculating and less insincere, and you feel much more sympathetic to her fate.
Well, she gets a worse fate too. So, I mean, we can go to that. That is a thing that they changed. That Isabella actually sleeps with Captain Tilney, and it's awful. The awfulness of him just being like, yeah, we're done now.
You see that she's drunk. You see him ushering her into his room and she's tottering, and then you see her sitting up in bed with a sheet around her saying, "Are we engaged now?" She's got a little satisfied look on her face. And interestingly, they didn't play that up as much as they could have done. That she could have appeared more devastated when what he actually says is, "Make yourself presentable, we need to get you back before you're missed," which means, "No, we're not engaged." So, she could have been more devastated by that, realising what that meant, than they actually showed.
It almost seems like she's just in shock and she doesn't really understand what's happened. That maybe later it would be a bigger deal. But yeah, you don't get to see the big emotional impact that would have on her. And with her being a more sympathetic character, they really could have played that.
They could have. So they must have decided that they didn't want us to feel too sympathetic towards her, because Catherine actually drops it like a stone. She's undistressed by it in the movie, quite different to how she behaves in the book. In this movie, she was a bad person, cut her off.
In the novel, she and Captain Tilney are playing each other in a way. They're enjoying their flirting and both seeing what they can get out of it. But in this adaptation, he's very clearly got the upper hand, and that makes me more sympathetic towards her. And again, the saying about the position of women in this time period.
A tiny little scene in which you see Isabella writing the letter to Catherine after it's clear that Captain Tilney is not going to continue his relationship with her, and she's realised she's made a terrible mistake in letting James Morland go, and she's trying to get Catherine to intervene.
See, so that scene follows directly after the sex scene.
Yeah. She's sitting on the bed, her bed in her home, fully clothed, and there are a couple of people, probably a servant, and was the other one her mother?
Yeah.
Are they packing to leave?
Yeah, because they're leaving Bath.
And so Isabella's writing a letter, and she grabs at a shawl. Is her mother trying to pack her shawl? And
she pulls it back,
pulls it back. Not quite clear what's happening there. Are they trying to grab at the last shreds of their respectability?
Them leaving Bath was, but in this, you could read it very clearly as she did a bad thing. They do actually need to get out of Dodge. I wasn't sure if the snatching thing was a no, I still want to be in control, or her being angry or something. But her sitting on her bed writing to Catherine, and she's still got a dress that's pushing her boobs right out, and I'm like, if you were actually feeling any sort of cowed, would you dress like that? Or am I being judgy? Is this a misogynistic thing that we're like, well, a woman who feels bad about what she's done should dress drab?
Yeah, I do think that snatching of that shawl back is to show that she's defiant.
Maybe her mother's like, we have to leave Bath, and she maybe doesn't want to. Understands that they're going and they kind of have to, but doesn't want to.
Yeah, it was a little hard to say. And then you see Miss Tilney saying that Isabella will soon recover. Thinking, ooh.
Yeah, that's a bit harsh, particularly because earlier she's like, I don't think that Miss Thorpe understands what she's getting herself into, which implies that she thinks that her brother is going to sleep with Isabella. So yeah, it wouldn't be a thing to be got over quickly. She could be pregnant. She is an unmarried woman who's had sex with somebody, regardless whether she's pregnant or not. That is bad news in this time period.
Well, she just took herself off ever getting married, unless she marries a tradesman or someone that she doesn't believe meets her standards. And it's a disaster, really. But I guess that's not the story, is it? It's not Isabella's story, it's Catherine's story.
I mean, if we made it Isabella's story, we could make her a sympathetic character. Perhaps she was in love with James, but then this dashing captain comes along and seduces her and then leaves her heartbroken, and she's like, no, it wasn't love, it was something else. I do love James. And then she's devastated and ruined. It could be Isabella's story.
See Jane Austen writing that?
No. One of the other changes that they made, you see Catherine writing in her diary directly after flirting with Mr. Tilney that she doesn't have one. That was a cute throwback. They talk about the book The Monk rather than The Mysteries of Udolpho, and this is so much more inappropriate.
Well, as well as The Mysteries of Udolpho. She does have a copy of The Mysteries of Udolpho.
I feel like that was a mistake that they made because she's dreaming about scenes from The Monk, but the book that she's holding is The Mysteries of Udolpho. The Monk was banned. Even hearing the bits that she's talking about in the film, you're like, oh, that's a lot for now to be reading, let alone then. And this little innocent girl doesn't know what's happening and it's creating these feelings, and hence the sex dreams. John Thorpe knows the Tilneys right at the start, and he tries to put a worm in her ear about them. Don't know about their family. Or you shouldn't associate with them.
Yeah, he did too. That there was something fishy about the death of Mrs. Tilney.
In the book, when Catherine meets Miss Tilney, she immediately knows that it is Henry's sister, not his wife. But in this adaptation, you get a brief moment of her going, oh my God, he's with a woman.
And she's so transparent about it.
She's transparent about everything. And one of the things that they changed that I really liked, when Isabella gets the letter from James about the engagement, how much money their father's going to give them, Catherine calls her out on being a bitch about the money and also says, why do you think the Ellens would do anything for James or for me? They don't owe us anything and we don't expect anything from them. I really like that she was sharp enough to see that, and she had enough backbone to say something about it, because she doesn't in the novel.
I think that's probably necessary for a modern audience. Mystery co-host, would you have known that was an issue if she hadn't told you?
But what was news?
No.
So we were talking about John Thorpe being a nicer character and kind of understandable in this one. He apologises for tricking her about the Tilneys, and he says, look, we've got to think about Isabella. She can't do this without a chaperone. He gives an explanation in such a way that even though he's literally just like almost abducted her in his carriage, you can kind of understand.
Self-serving explanation.
Yes.
And a bald-faced admission of lying.
Different from the books, Catherine says that she doesn't believe in the things that she reads. Because she and Mrs. Tilney have a couple of conversations about that sort of thing. And she goes back to him, she's like, not vampires. Don't tell me it's vampires. In the flattest voice, like, I know what you're doing. Come on.
Yeah, she might say she doesn't believe it, but you kind of know she does. Apart from the vampires.
Eleanor shows Catherine which spoon to eat with at dinner. That obviously doesn't happen in the novel. But I liked that you could see that relationship.
Yeah, that was a nice touch. But that really should have alerted Miss Tilney to how little money Miss Morland had.
I assume that Mr. and Miss Tilney know that she doesn't have a lot of money because, I mean, in the book they knew. Catherine and Miss Tilney have a talk about money and that he must marry someone with money. And she's like, but what if you love someone who doesn't have money? He's like, well, that's going to be a test of character. And, you know, they're talking around the topic, but it's very clear that they're both aware she doesn't have money. And she's really into him.
He says that would be a test of character.
You can't say that is a test of character. You can't be like, yes, I am in love with you.
I thought the implication there was, well, I won't have to worry about that because you've got money.
Oh, maybe we won't need to rewatch that scene too. What they changed but was similar to the previous one, that he leaves after the murder suspect thing and then she gets kicked out without seeing him. The difference about it in this one is that she thinks he's told his father and that's why she's being kicked out, and she takes it all on herself. And she gets kicked out immediately when the general comes home and has to travel at night, which I think works really well.
She's been set down waiting for the coach and there are men on the street. She's in proper danger.
You get lovely scenes of her with her siblings. They greet her when she comes home, and then you see her putting them to bed and talking to them. She burns her book because she's so embarrassed.
Which happened in that 1987.
Did it? Did I forget that?
I think it did.
Well, there you go. It's another similarity.
And she tells her mother that she is in love with Mr. Tilney, which she does not in the book. She noticeably doesn't in the book because the mother is completely oblivious and thinks that her daughter's head's been turned by all the fancy, rich living in Bath. In fact, it's a broken heart.
So they kept a lot of stuff. Mr. Tilney is still an excellent flirt. He's a clergyman in this one, but again it appears that Catherine's father is not, because she makes a face when she finds out he's a clergyman.
Oh, that's true. He appears in his full clerical gear, including hat, in one of the fantasies. Isn't the one where she's in the bar?
Yeah, she's wearing no clothes and he's wearing his very religious clothes. They do have the conversation about novels still. Oh, Isabella's chasing men is so well done in this. I like that they have the guys in the bookshop and then the pump room. And then that leads into the road with the carriages, which happens in the book, but I don't think happens in the previous adaptation. And you could actually see how fast the carriages were going and how difficult it would have been to get across. John Thorpe does the complaining about novels and then offers her The Monk to read, even though it's banned. He swears like 2 times in 2 minutes, inappropriate. The Tilneys see through the Thorpes like they do in basically everything. The first time Miss Tilney sees Isabella, she's got her number. She's like, yes, she is a flirt. That's why she doesn't want to go walking with you. Mr. Tilney sees that John has designs on Catherine, even though Catherine can't see it. And Mr. Thorpe asks about Mr. Allen's money again on the carriage ride. And then we see Mr. Tilney being upset at the theatre, which I don't think they had in the previous adaptation. You had him being upset, but it didn't happen in the theatre like it did in the novel. When Isabella talks about the engagement to James, she's wearing the yellow gown that is talked about in the novel, and she refers to the fact that she had braids when she first met him. Potentially this is implying that she wore the dress intentionally that day because she knew that he might propose.
I think it just means that she always knows what she's wearing.
Well, she does care about that.
Was Isabella a repeat of the Lydiafication? Was she used in a similar way as Lydia was? To be shown as she was open to romance with lots of people and then got punished for it. Did she?
I think that's a really good point.
I was going to say, because that kind of went off as that's happened before.
Yeah.
Is this a Austen comment on promiscuous, in quotation marks, woman, that they need to be cancelled? They lose all of their everything.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale.
Yeah. Is that what's happening with Isabella as well?
Yeah, and it comes through much more clearly in this adaptation because you actually see her in bed with him. Well, not in bed, but it's implied. Which, again, you know that Lydia and Mr. Wickham would have had sex. They were together for several weeks. Her talking to Henry about Captain Tilney and being concerned, which I still am like, that's a really personal conversation to be having with someone about your friend. Be like, hey, your brother and my friend are flirting and it's uncomfortable. General Tilney, not as imposing a figure as he is in the previous adaptation, but he does yell the dinner to be on the table directly, which is directly from the novel.
And very scary.
Yeah, like almost in her face. And then he's like, puts his arm out and just stands there waiting for her to come get it. Eleanor's like, off you go. They visit Woodston, which is always a bit difficult to squeeze in, I suppose. But they go on horseback this time, and they're alone.
And they get wet. But it's a missed opportunity. All that white muslin and none of it clings.
Well, she would not be wearing white muslin because that is not what you wear for horse riding.
She did look very fetching, though.
Her with the top hat, with the veil thing on the back, and then she gets mud on her face. Oh.
I was so confused by both the veil and the hat. What was happening?
Fashion.
I just went, well, I assume it's like how they wear helmets when they ride now.
I don't think that little top hat was doing that. Preventing brain injuries.
There's a 1980s Pride and Prejudice where Mr. Collins has a top hat that has a flotation device in it that Lady Catherine has suggested that he wear.
She would.
Yeah.
She totally would.
Yeah. We get to see Isabella's letter in this one, as we discussed. We get both letters. When Mr. Tilney comes to Fullerton and is like, oh, I need to talk to Catherine alone. Oh, are the Allens here? You have that line from the novel where the sister's like, yeah, you can see their house through the window.
Yeah.
And her mother going, shut up. I liked that they kept that. And one thing that was really evident throughout is they used a lot more quotes from the text, which didn't always work. Like, the narrator at the end is talking about, is it good to be disobedient to your parents or whatever, and you're like, that doesn't seem to really fit with what you said previously and how this has gone on.
In the text, it was more clearly related to the delay between when they got engaged and when they actually finally got the general's approval to marry, which didn't appear.
No, because actually that's something that they did differently here. He says to her, I've basically been thrown out by my dad. Do you want to marry me? Like, he tells her beforehand, and that he's actually cut himself off from his father. That's not how it goes.
That's why the narration doesn't connect, because it's narration from a book and they've actually changed the bit immediately before the narration, so it doesn't... Who is the narrator, do you think?
What you mean, like, do you think it's a character?
Who's supposed to be within the world of the film? Who do we think is talking? Do we think it's Jane Austen?
I mean, I don't think it's Jane Austen because she's not really funny or sharp enough.
So it must be one of the actors, though.
I have no idea. I mean, we could probably look it up.
On the last day of filming, the last person who hadn't cleared out their locker, they said, oh shit, we haven't recorded the narration. You're the last person out. You're the narrator.
The narrator is Geraldine James, and they've actually said the voice of Jane Austen. She does not appear to actually be in the movie, though. She was in Calendar Girls and Downton Abbey. She was Queen Mary. But yes, they had a specific voice actor. The narrator is Jane Austen.
So not just the last actor out of the locker room. So all in all, we feel a good adaptation.
It really is.
Why was this not more famous?
Because it was made for TV. It wasn't released in theatres. And Northanger Abbey's not, one of the big novels. Like, so Pride and Prejudice and Persuasion tend to be the favourites. Oh, Northanger Abbey, that weird one she wrote when she was young.
Well, I thought this was a really enjoyable, well-executed adaptation.
I liked it too. And again, something that we were talking about when we were talking about the 1987 one, probably very much of its time. And that might be why I can relate to it a bit better, because it hasn't been 40 years since it was made. So Emma and I may have one more episode where we talk about Taylor Swift lines that go for Northanger Abbey. And that has been our discussion of the 2007 adaptation of Northanger Abbey. I'm Frances Duncan, this has been Emma, and our secret co-host, and Bingley, who you can hear in the background. Thank you for listening, and we wish you happy watching. He's a better Austen scholar than we are.
He's been raised right.
I should make a t-shirt that says that.
Yes.
Staff is a capitalist scam. Oh, that's so good.